because people will ruin their life with anything, literally cheeseburgers and sodas. So, where's the line? Asmon did a video last night on we need to talk about pay to win. I clicked on it because right away I was like, ooh, this is a topic I like. I've made videos about it, but my videos in the past didn't get very many views on it. So it's like, I want to have this conversation. This is my way of being able to have this conversation right now, basically.
Now, pay to win for games in some degree or another has been around for the better part of 10 years, maybe even 10 years by this point. But I think that for the longest time, it's just been something that's existed in mobile games. It's been in, you know, Raid Shadow Legends and these other types of mobile games with these arbitrary gating systems like energy stuff, etc., right?
It's always been like mobile games, and then the stigma was like Korean MMOs, right? Already have had it for a while. But yeah, usually you think of it with mobile games and the Korean games, but really, yeah, it is starting to go everywhere. Even like, right, I keep talking about EverQuest, how much I like that old game EverQuest, right? But the reason I have to play Project 1999 private emulator server, which does have like legal permission granted from the people with the license to be able to operate. But the reason I have to do that is like the new model of the game, right? They ended eventually over time going free to play with the optional subscription, which that would be fine if that's the limit of it, but then it's not, right? They've got the cash shop with all kinds of stuff in it, right? And like,
and you would have to spend real money to get these things. And I'm going to talk about how I think pay to win has managed to work its way into Western games, and how I think that audiences nowadays are actually more okay with it, much to the detriment of, I would say, an average gamer. And also,
I will have to remember which stream it was and do an edited down clip of this other video. But I watched another video that's from a smaller creator, and it was literally like going through and analyzing the introduction of pay to win, starting with kind of like the first MMO, you know, like, you know, game that had it. I think it was Maple Story was the one. And he really kind of went through the line and showing the slow infection through the whole gaming genre.
And so I'd like to start off with looking at like what the context is behind what is pay to win. And I think the fact that pay to win has such a very, it doesn't really have a defined definition. You can't go into the dictionary and find one definition of pay to win. And
it's so subjective to every person, right? Because every person's goal in a game is different. There are people that could view cosmetics as pay to win, right? Because there are people that play games for the fashion, right? If you're like, right, there's the meme that fashion is the end game, but that's not just a meme for some people, right? That's very real. And for those people, if all of the best looking stuff is only in the cash shop, like a good example of a game that does this very intentionally in a very, you know, like insidious type of way is Black Desert Online. The actual good gear in the game purposely looks like trash. Like some of the actual crappy sets look better than when you get the actual good stat like boss gear and stuff. And I believe that's very intentional, right? So that you'll buy all the really awesome stuff in the cash shop.
Everybody agrees on it. So like, for example, you have games like World of Warcraft, who, in my opinion, I think this game's fucking pay to win as shit. Like, I went over, I bought WoW tokens, and I bought mythic raid gear, and then I put it on my main character, and now I'm better in PvP. It's rated PvP. Like, I don't know, I feel like it's obviously pay to win, right? But there are people that think that it's not, because
what's crazy is how he really has just fully given into it. Lost Ark kind of kicked it off. And then I'm a little surprised to hear him say he did it in WoW too, because he always sounded like he wouldn't do it in WoW. But yeah, it's like just kind of realizing that as far as like your big games, right? Like your bigger AAA type games, you know, like seems like the war is lost because most people don't care, right? And there's also like the gamers are. You can't get everyone to like be on the same side, right? Like you would need a ridiculous amount of people to agree and all abstain from it, and it's not gonna happen, unfortunately. We can't get it to happen with things that are even way more important than right than this. Like, so why would we be able to do it just for games?
because you can farm that stuff with gold. There's also other people that think that pay to win only occurs whenever you're able to obtain something that is only obtainable by spending real money. So it's like, you know, there's a sword that's better than every other sword in the game, and the only other way you can get it is by spending real money. So, and then there's, on the other side of the spectrum, there's people that think...
Fun side note, guys. I've been researching the Diablo Immortal a bit more. And from the guys that were in the alpha and have been covering that game for, you know, for like the past year or whatever, it looks like the cash shop, pretty pay to win. Pretty pay to win. And there's even an item that, as of like now, the last video I've seen, unless this gets changed between like now and the actual release, there's like an evolution, awakening of a certain thing, that the only way to do it is with a thing that currently the only way to acquire is from the cash shop. So like the straight up hardcore example he's talking about right now.
That any cosmetic, even cosmetics reference, and cosmetics are a fundamental of value in the game, and so adding value through cosmetics is adding value through giving people the win condition through having them. So what I'm saying is that pay to win has such a broad definition for so many different kinds of people. It's very hard for people to stand united against any sort of real feature of pay to win, because it's just so it's so amorphous. It's so there's no official definition of it. I think that's sort of what I'm trying to say here. And I think this is one reason why it started to happen, is that people who defend the games and people who are okay with these games can always find some point of difference and some other game that is popular that has some feature of pay to win as well. I think that whenever I was considering, or sorry, criticizing,
yeah, there's a lot of you know, like, oh, this game is worse, right? But it's not as bad as this game. Now, well, things being not as bad doesn't mean they're good. You know?
The Lost Ark pay-to-win features, people kept reminding me about World of Warcraft's pay-to-win features, and which I said, yes, you are very, very right about that.
Before the game came out, I actually made some videos comparing the two, and my stance at the time was that WoW was probably actually more pay-to-win. But unfortunately, Amazon made a bunch of changes between that video and now, right? Like, I saw Silo's video and he's talking about like, oh, the pet change, you know, being added into the sub and how that's better than the other region or whatever. And it's like, I don't know if he's not aware, but in the beta, you could also use blue crystals on a pet and buy it and permanently unlock it. One time, permanent unlock forever. So you didn't have to maintain a monthly anything. You didn't have to monthly buy it with crystals, and you didn't have to monthly sub it. And someone in between went, that's a little bit too good. That's too good. We need to at least keep it tied into some kind of recurring thing, so people can't just be like, okay, you know what? I'll just focus on this pet. I won't have a bunch of variety. I'll get the crystals. I'll unlock it the one time. I can't afford to need to be doing things every month, right? But they got rid of that on purpose. Just like the good honing rates were listed, and then someone was like, "Ooh, nope, that's too good. We got to make it a little bit worse. If we don't make it too bad, like no one will have a reason to swipe for the first 6 months." And so, right, like I ended up having to change my stance on that, and now I don't know, right? It's like, does it really matter? They're both full of enough pay to win that it bothers me, which is what matters.
Too. But I think that many cases people view it as a personal attack, and I think that also as especially MMO players, because let's be honest, okay, talking about pay to win in an MMO, I mean, this is sacrilegious, this is anathema, this is blasphemy, this is like sacrificing a goat to Satan in the middle of a church. This is the last thing that you want to do. And meanwhile, every single other game that comes out nowadays is somehow pay to win in one way or another. And why does this happen?
Except New World, right? It's such a bummer. The only one that's not pay to win for like new ones, right, that have come out recently, is the one that flopped the hardest due to other reasons. Such a bummer.
When a previously thought impenetrable audience of pay-to-win players, or pay-to-win, you know, non-pay-to-win players in the Western audiences, it's like, well, you can never sell a game like Genshin Impact over here, right? Nobody would ever buy it. Then,
of course you could. You know, I don't know why people thought that, because like mobile games have been proving that's not true forever. Right? There's all kinds of them, like Summoners Wars and all these other types of games. Like they've been doing it for a while, kind of proving the proof of concept that, you know, it's no problem over here. It's I don't know. It's like it's just us. I don't know, it's like us, like first wave PC gamers.
Comes out, and this was off the heels of Breath of the Wild, which is very popular. People like that idea of open world exploration. The game was fluid, it played well, and I haven't really played it myself personally, but I've seen the way that it looks, and it does look visually appealing to a certain degree. And what ended up happening is you had millions of people spending millions of dollars on wishes.
Hey,
here
thanks
in
for
America.
following, Teller.
Can you believe that? This is something that people thought would be impossible to do. And I would say 5 years before that, it would have never happened. But look, here it is, and it is happening. And I think that it's actually just as simple as people want a good game to play. And people will forgive and forget and make excuses for pay-to-win features because they are enjoying the game. And you can make all of the excuses and all of the
Sometimes in modern games, it's like this is in general. He's talking about it's just like a we need to talk about pay to win type of talk. And the conversation interests me because it's just like, it's one of those things. I'm in that older group of gamers that cares about this, and it bothers me that it's becoming so rampant. But it's obviously becoming the norm in like almost every single new game that comes out. I did do a little spiel on Lost Ark like 5 minutes ago, though.
Nationalizations and everything else beyond it, but I think that it's actually just that simple. People are enjoying playing the game, and it's just
I was gonna say before I read that comment, and he said just that simple about like people enjoying the game is with modern games, I don't think it's always enjoyment, right? There is a difference between like pure like enjoyment versus very cleverly crafted addiction that just kind of keeps you doing it, even though like maybe you're not having that much fun, but you're also trapped into this loop of like, well, I don't feel like I can stop because sunk cost fallacy, and I've invested so much, but I also don't want to fall behind. Like I'm unsure, and you just kind of like stay in the You kind of stay in the treadmill, even though really like you're not having that much fun.
You probably never lived without the internet. You don't remember what the Stone Ages were like, whenever you had to call your friends on the phone and their mom would answer, and then you'd ask to see if Timmy was home so you could go play at the park. This is just not the way people do things anymore. And because of that, I think that many of those people don't necessarily understand exactly how much different it used to be whenever we were like me, like people that are like, I'd say 30 and over. Whenever we were gamers and we were kids in the 90s, there was no real pay to win or anything like that.
There was literally none. It's impossible to like, it was impossible to pay to win and say like the original MMOs, right? And EverQuest, I don't remember exactly all the detail of the original classic WoW. I did play it, but it wasn't as big of an experience for me as like my first MMO was. So that one's much clearer in my mind. And there was absolutely nothing you could do, nothing at all.
Like that. Pay to win is renting the same video game twice from Blockbuster. So you see an audience of people who have been brought up and conditioned in a way to be more accepting of these types of features because they've grown up with them. And then also for older people, I think that it's literally this simple. And I think that for some people it is. Obviously, everybody is different, and my ideas don't necessarily affect an individual, but this is kind of what I'm assuming. And I'm basing this off of my fundamental belief that people will always advocate in their self-interest. And what I think is that there were the guys that were raiding in high school and college in Burning Crusade, Classic WoW, Wrath of the Lich King. Well, guess what? Now they're balding, gray-bearded, 35-year-old men. 35-year-old men that are, they've got a wife, a kids, and you know what?
There's only like 2 grays in my beard.
Also got a pretty good software engineering job, and they're making over $100,000 a year. And the kids that are 15 and 17 now that are kicking their ass in the video game, it pisses them off. So I think it's just as simple as a lot of the guys that grew up playing video games, they don't really care too much about pay to win as much anymore because now they can afford to pay to win. So back in the day, they couldn't afford to.
I think like in MMOs, it's also a side effect of the way the games are crafted now, where like they're not that fun until the end, and they're not challenging until the end, right? So like you want to get there to the end, and you want to be like up at the top and able to do this like content that's like it's finally the good, challenging, fun content. Whereas like older games, again, kind of like EverQuest, like it's challenging from the start, and you have those kinds of fun experiences from the start, right? I was like level 2 when I had my first random conversation with a stranger, higher level, stopping by and helping me out with stuff on my necromancer and EQ on this private server with only 700 people. And I was like and I had that experience several times. By level 4, I had several of those experiences, as well as I had already had random groups with strangers I had never seen before to team up and like do the content to get through, because the game is challenging and designed this way, like from the beginning. And the games nowadays, it's just like, I don't know, they're crazy dopamine traps where it's just constant, like, easy on your own, keeps you going in there. But really, it's like, there's no challenge and excitement, right? It's keeping you on like a dopamine loop for the fun and keeping you rolling, but it's not that same kind of challenging, fun gameplay that you just want to play it, and it doesn't matter, like, oh, I'm only level 4 right now in this game.
Pay to win, they didn't like it. Now people are older, they have the money, and you know what? Pay to win's not that bad. And I do know this is a very, very black pill take on it. This is a very, very, I don't know, nihilistic perspective to have. But I think that it's true. I really do. I see people say this stuff all the time. And you can corroborate this with the amount of mobile game revenue that's being generated here in America. You're having every single soccer mom on the block playing Candy.
The mobile revenue is insane. It's like, I've seen a video that kind of broke down some of the stuff, showed some graphs and all this. And it's like the mobile market is like more money than like all the other markets combined in the gaming space. It's disgusting.
Just so you guys understand, last year, I think this is 2021, I could be wrong about the year, but I'm not wrong about the numbers, mobile gaming revenue was more than console and PC gaming revenue combined.
Okay, there we go. He said it next. I've done that like 3 times in this video. I ended up saying what he was going to say next.
So that's why I think that we're going to see a lot more pay-to-win games come out, because I think audiences have been softened up by the fact that they've grown up with features like this, and so this is either normalized for them, or you have people that are now older and have less time, and so they appreciate features like this because it allows them to keep up with people that they wouldn't be able to keep up with otherwise, because they just simply don't have, they have other life responsibilities nowadays, and so they pay to win instead. And these are the people.
I don't know, man. Even when I don't have the time, but again, like, I'm not a wealthy person where spending the money is like a no thing to me, so it's hard to understand what my perspective would be then. But I feel like inherently, like, even when I've had the money to do it in games, I feel like every game I've ever done it in, that I ended up getting bored of the game way, way, way faster than I ever would have if it didn't exist.
Where is this going to go? Where are people going to go with this? I think that there's going to be even more social pressure to even engage in pay-to-win systems. Now, I only have a few real points of reference.
Right? Like, you're seeing a new trend now where when people do complain about pay-to-win, people that are in favor with it just make fun of them for being poor or whatever. Even if they're not poor, you don't know people. They're just random strangers online. You have no idea what their financial situation is, right? Unless you fucking dox them first before the conversation. And it's just like, it's just, that's the new social pressure way to the other side of it. It's like the opposite of Asmongold starting to /spit in WoW, right? But that was banned and not allowed. Whereas, this other thing is going on still.
For this, and
it makes sense, right? Because allowing that side of going, right, that's good. You want to pressure the players into spending. You don't want to let people spit on the players that spend.
Data or information to back this up, but I do think that it's true, especially if you corroborate it with the in general social pressure to keeping up with the Joneses, keeping up with the latest social trends, making sure that you have an iPhone 6, because anybody that has an iPhone 5 nowadays is fucking poor. So
maybe that's one of the reasons I don't like it, is I'm just one of those like, what? Everyone's going that way? Okay, we're going this way. We're going this way. We are avoiding that massive crowd. We're going this way.
I've seen a lot of times, like remember back in Fortnite, kids would bully other kids for not having microtransaction skins in Fortnite. And I think this is going to become even more prevalent and even more
For sure.
common among a larger audience, because I already see this happen. If you guys ever see, go on Twitter, go on Reddit or something like that, and especially on Twitter, because Reddit's more of a crystallized or a more serious audience. And you're going to see, like there's a new microtransaction that X or Y company, let's just assume Blizzard, let's assume Blizzard announces, I don't know, a new store mount, and you're going to see all of these people that, they've got their profile picture of it, and it's of their character or it's fan art.
Again, like I was so on his side with the store mounts thing and whatnot, right? Like, I think when you pay the sub to the game, the only shit that should be in that cash shop is those things like, right, a character name change, server transfer, well, whatever, that kind of shit. But anything like mounts, cosmetics, armor sets, anything like that, it's like you're paying the sub. That should be developed for in the game for you to earn more content. God.
And I think that you're going to see the introduction of this to happen more is people are going to view status in video games as being able to afford certain types of microtransactions and having certain types of things in the game in general. And this has always been the case, but what's different this time is that that status is not derived from effort or time invested in the game.
This is why we are starting to like single player games more and more, guys.
It's derived from money invested or money spent in the game. And I think this is already happening. You're already seeing this, and you have more and more people now that actually, it's weird. I think it's just so weird that people almost take pride in spending money on these types of things because they can do it. They feel like this is what they want to do with their money. And
I feel like no matter how much money I had, that's not how I would ever want to spend it. It's just not the way my brain works, right? I'm sure I would do some, right? Because like I usually give in to skins and such. But that is a habit I'm definitely trying to break. Because again, even those, I just end up anything where you spend like more than just giving them a sub or like a basic type of thing in a game, I always feel like eventually it ends up lowering my enjoyment. And then I quit the game faster. And then you look back and you're like, oh man, how much money did I give that game to only play it for like, X how long? And so I'd like to not keep doing that. But in general, I'm more the type of person that if I had a bunch of extra money, there are more tools I would like to acquire. There's house projects I would like to do. I would like to have a basement. That's like the one thing I'm missing, right? If I could put my plant room in a basement and then have my spare room be like an actual content room that I could decorate it nice and do the sound and stuff, everything in it good, rather than having the kitchen back there and all that type of shit. That's kind of like the kind of stuff where I would spend money if I had extra money. I don't think I would give it to a game.
Who am I to tell people what they can and can't do with their money, right? Do whatever the fuck you want. But I do think I can still have an opinion on it. I think it's dumb. But, that's what they do. And so I think this is going to become more and more prevalent, and it's going to become more and more popular as, those younger people who grew up with microtransactions and being conditioned to be okay with them.
Oh, yeah, right? Like eventually there's not going to be anyone left who remembers the age of no pay to win.
I think more of those people are going to be okay with it, and you're going to see those people getting older and more of...
I'm going to be like that, right? That joke they always show in like the movies or the cartoon, the annoying old guy telling some story that the kids don't even believe. Back in my day, you just pay the subscription and you enjoyed the game, and there were no daily tasks, and there wasn't any microtransaction. There wasn't even a cash shop at all. And the kids are like, "You're fucking lying, Grandpa."
Of the Asmongolds, of these people either getting really good software engineering jobs and being able to just buy the stuff anyway and feel better than the kids that can't fucking buy it, or you're going to see them move on. And like I have friends of mine who they were really, really against pay to win, and they fucking hated that shit. They played World of Warcraft back in the day, and now they're like a manager at like a big box store, and they have a wife and 3 kids, and so they just don't fucking play video games at all anymore. So that's what I think is going to happen a lot, and those people are going to remove themselves from the population in general, and so of video game players.
That's kind of what I was saying, sort of with myself, basically, right? Is like, And we'll see. There's a few bigger projects I'm looking forward to, but for the most part, I'm looking at, well, I guess Ashes and Pantheon. No, they're technically both indie, right? So most games that I'm looking at that I have even potential excitement for right now are indie, right? I'm gonna try out Diablo Immortal. I'll play it a little bit for fun, but I already know that there's intense pay to win systems in it, so like I know it's not gonna be the game, right?
So I think this is going to become more and more popular, and I'm very worried about this. And the reason why I'm worried about it, there's a lot of reasons why I'm worried about it. I think that, like, in a perfect world, I'd like to see, you know, some degree of like legislation to limit the types of behaviors and the types of things like this that games can offer you. In my opinion, this is kind of like what I think. And let's use Lost Ark as an example.
This kind of shit is such deep internal conflict for me. This part of the conversation right here, it gets to where it gets really real for me, because I like to think of myself as an individualist and a supporter of like true freedom for everyone, right? You know, like true equal freedom, equal opportunity to pursue things, try things, get, you know, the government out of our lives more. But there are, and corporations and the things that like big business do is always the one thing that has me be like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And it sucks because the government is obviously corrupt, terrible, awful. But also, you know, I can't say I feel like it would be better without it, right? I feel like without it, right? Eventually it's probably going to get there, right? It's just how long will it take the lobbying to get there before they finish cutting every single tree and being able to completely financially pillage like anyone they want to and such. But it is like slowing the road there, right? If there was no regulations, like every tree you can see would be gone tomorrow. So I don't know. This stuff is such internal conflict for me because I like to believe in freedom and like personal responsibility, you know, but he's right. Like most people just will not make smart choices, right? They won't think big picture, and you can bring it all the way down to just taking basic care of themselves, right? Like if you live in America, we live in a country where most people objectively don't take care of themselves properly by the statistics that most people are significantly overweight in this country.
Example is that I think that if Lost Ark, let's say because you know in Belgium and the Netherlands you can't play Lost Ark because according to Belgium and the Netherlands rules and their laws, Lost Ark is an illegal game because it simulates gambling. Well, my opinion is that if Western games and Western,
Let me just say, I absolutely think a gambling-based like gear progression systems is the least enjoyable form of gear progression. It's bad. It just doesn't feel good. It does not feel as good to keep one piece of gear that you keep upgrading, and it's, even if you can upgrade it with 100% success, it's not as exciting as getting an entirely new piece of gear that is cool, and preferably the pieces of gear being good enough to last a while. Right? I don't need this constant loot pinata that fills my inventory and makes me do inventory management more than actually play the game. Right? It's like, again, I always come back to EverQuest. I think they did it cooler, right? You weren't over, right? The entire economy obviously balanced down around it, but you weren't overly showered with loot constantly. And when you got a good piece of gear, like you could get, there were quests and items you could get kind of like in your mid 20s that you could keep all the way until the end game and use that shit in raids until you got like a planar like raid piece of gear. And getting a piece of gear like that is so cool. When you get that piece of gear, it feels so much better than getting just some, oh, I just go immediately easily get my set of gear and now we sit here and we roll dice on it, and every time I fail, I don't just lose time, I lose resources and everything else. And I hear people talk about how they would never play, you know, deal with EverQuest's old like punishing death system of losing experience. And it's like, losing experience because you effed up and died because you made a mistake, to me feels a lot less shitty than losing tons of resources, money, time, progression, and everything because dice said F you. right? It's similar to like why Dark Souls type games and Elden Ring and stuff are cool, right? Like when you die and the things go wrong, it's because you made a mistake, right? You get punished when you make a mistake, not when you roll the dice wrong. I just don't think it's good.
Where do I really see change happening? I see change happening on a legislation level. I see change happening on a actual like a forced level of like laws and things like this, because I've said this many times, these companies, they will do whatever they can.
Yeah, companies obviously won't do it just out of the goodness of their heart. And the way to make it happen naturally, like inside of freedom, right? It would be through people. But like it takes people caring and educating themselves and understanding. And again, and mostly the biggest thing, caring. And most people have like an apathetic approach to almost everything unless they specifically have chosen to care about that thing already, which is why I say ultimately it comes down to you need to get people to care first. And you know, like just live in an age where like most people don't care about like fucking anything. In fact, it's almost uncool to care about things, right?
And to make money, and people always find a way to make an excuse for buying their products. People hate child labor, but they're still buying products from Apple. People hate
pedophilia, but they didn't cancel their Netflix when Cuties launched. And yeah, just the trailer was enough to show how bad it was. But you can watch any review from a level-headed, non-pedophile person who tried to even watch the video. I think Moist Critical said he made it through about 30 minutes before he was going to like fucking throw up and had to turn it off. The entire thing is sexualizing children, and people say they like, hate pedophilia and all of this shit, but they didn't cancel it. I canceled mine. I've got a screenshot of it still somewhere on my phone. The second I saw the trailer and I saw the shit, and then I looked and it was real. It was actually on their website. It wasn't fake, right? It wasn't a troll. I immediately canceled, and in that little spot where it says your reason, I put Cuties, pedophile, movie. And I have never resubbed.
You know, child labor again, they're still buying products from Nike. You know, these things just keep happening, and they'll always find an excuse or a reason for it. And I don't think that you can really hold these companies accountable in any term of a boycott.
I hate it. I'm sure if I had someone that lived with me, though, they could help me find like one area where I'm blind to doing it myself. But I don't know. I hope not.
Boycott or in any term of a you know, like a consumer rights activism group or anything like that. I think that the only way that it can ever be actually moderated and controlled is on a legislative level, because I've tried everything else and it hasn't worked. And so where do I think that they should draw the line? Where should be the first line to draw? I think it's very simple. I think that you should not be able to buy loot boxes. I think that loot boxes that you spend money, if you ever spend money in a game and then that money goes towards something that is not necessarily a direct outcome. So like, for example, you buy a box and then the box has a randomized chance to have different items in it, like an Overwatch box, excuse me. And
again, we're getting into a territory that's like, it's really difficult for me. I'm incredibly torn on this. But ultimately, my values say that this is wrong to do, because the government is violence. So you are this, right? When you suggest government things, you have to take government things to their end conclusion. And the end conclusion of government anything is, or else we'll kill you, or else we'll put you in jail, right? And it's typically, or else we'll put you in jail, and if you try to resist being caged, or else we'll kill you. And so you have to, it's not a light thing to suggest that the government do things. And this is difficult for me because they aren't direct, they're not like stealing, they're not threatening you, they're not making you give them the money. It's a fucking game that you choose to play. I proved that you can stop. I stopped playing Lost Ark, hardly at all. I log in if I need to make videos about it right now, and I'm waiting for them to introduce more horizontal content and fix the hunting buffs, and do the things that I know should be in the game. Give me more stuff I can do just for fun that isn't just play your treadmill game and spend money to upgrade my gear. You know, it's unfortunate that that's the way it ended up coming out in our version. We got the shitty honing rates. They keep giving us the content with pieces missing for earning stuff. And I'm just that kind of person where I'm like, I'm too irritated to enjoy it now. And so I stopped. You can do that. It's just a game. They're not threatening you. They're not coming in your home. So suggesting the government, right? It's a very complicated issue for me because no one has to play the games and everyone could just stop playing them. And then they would stop their monetization methods, but people won't, which means that people don't care that much, which is like, I don't know, it's so rough. And I know, again, government, the end result of government, anything is violence. And so I think it's like really serious to suggest when they get involved. And I wish their only job was basically purely protecting people, stopping violent crime. I'm like, that's fucking it.
You know, just a traditional loot box. I think that these should be illegal. I think that they simulate gambling, and I don't think that they have. I think not only do they simulate gambling, but these games are also they're made to appeal to children and young people. And I think
that part is true. But in a game like Lost Ark, the game's rated M, isn't it? Pretty positive it's rated M. I don't believe children are supposed to be playing the game. Right? A child's account shouldn't be able to play it, right? I'm pretty positive. Should we pull that up? Because I don't remember. So, right, like sometimes you're just talking about a game and adults choosing to do what adults want to do. And it's like, I don't even think drugs should be illegal, right? They can ruin people's lives, but it's like, it's your life. It's your fucking body. You should be able to make those choices. Even if you want to ruin your life, you should be allowed to do that because it's your life, right? The problems come in when things are not affecting just your life, right? But this is, again, we're talking video games. There's no, like, no one has to play video games or a particular game, right? Tons of indie games that have zero pay to win and bullshit in them. So I don't know. I'm really, I don't know if I agree on this get the government involved thing. Usually they just make it worse anyway, right? Because the big companies with the money will just start to bribe them around, just like fucking make it worse somehow. They usually fuck up everything they touch, guys. Why do we ask for them to do anything anymore?
Using advertising and marketing that appeals to young people and then trying to engage them into a video game that simulates gambling. How is this different from flavored cigarettes? How is this different? I don't know. I feel like it's somehow even worse. And
I don't think those should have been banned either. They're already illegal for children. Children can't buy them. Like, someone's already breaking a law for them to get them. So you just remove things from the market for responsible adults who want to make choices for themselves. Because this is like the problem with governments and laws bullshit. Just same thing with drugs or anything else, man. There's like plenty of people that use things just fine. They don't hurt their family members. They don't destroy their lives. They have fun with their friends like every freaking once in a while, but they're breaking the law, right? It's absolutely ridiculous, man. I'm trying to get less mommy daddy shit from government. That's what I would like. Less mommy daddy.
I'm just so tired of seeing this shit. And I think that, yes, you're right. Everybody should, like, I don't necessarily, I'll be honest, this might sound like an asshole thing, but I don't necessarily feel sorry for these people whenever they make stupid decisions like spending money on these games.
Exactly.
But I don't think that it should happen either way. It's like, it's stupid to leave your car unlocked with a brand new PS5 in it in a bad side of town, in the middle of an empty parking lot. And then you come back the next day, PS5 is gone. Yeah, I think you're dumb for doing that, but I still think the guy who stole it should go to jail. And
yeah, well, that's stealing. That was destroying property and stealing. Those are actual violations of you, right? Choosing to play a game and choosing to give them money is not. It's very different, man. Government, it's This is going to be the big part on the video where we disagree on this part. So like the first half of the video, we basically were agreeing so much that like several times I said what Asmon said while I had the video paused, and then I pushed play and he ended up saying what I said.
The way that I feel about this is that I would love to see more legislation about this. I'd like to see more not more, at least one, right? Tech-savvy senator or some person in a legislative office that's able to identify this and understand what the problem is and see how insidious it is.
See, that's another issue, right? You're talking government and tech, bro. Like, not a lot of young tech-savvy people in the government.
It's very worrying to see this happen, and I'm worried that it's going to get too far ahead of us, and we're going to.
I guess the ones that are, right, they have working like deep, you know, building fucking bombs and shit, right? That's where they dedicate that kind of mind, right? Is like, or the NSA, right? Those people are like developing how to spy on people, their own people, and how to bomb other countries and shit. The smart people aren't in there thinking about how to like solve problems that are going to really help people.
Have even more games that become even more parasitic, and these games implement more gambling features that are more unhealthy towards audiences. And I do think that unless it's actually regulated, I think that there is no way a individual consumer, you know, you can choose to, and I completely respect the idea that, you know, I'm not going to buy this or that game based off of this or that reason because you have a moral thing or you just don't like it. Yeah. More power to you to do that. But I don't think that's going to change the market.
No,
and I think that games like Genshin Impact, games...
It would take more than 50% of the market choosing to do that, right? It would take or who knows the exact number, right? I'm not like an economics genius here, right? But it would take a large amount of individuals choosing to do that. Not one individual choosing to do that. Choosing to do that as one individual is what I talked about earlier. That's about you and yourself and what's more important to you, right? Like, which type of internal struggle do you care about not feeling more? And for me, the one I don't like to feel is the one where I feel like I'm not being true to myself and the words and the things that I say. And so I tend to go that way. I'm probably not going to be the person that just like keeps playing the fucking game. I'm most likely going to be the person that stops playing and starts talking about it, kind of like I already did. And all right, hopefully I'm through the big dip. I lost a lot of people for like over a month. I was just watching, right? I lost every time I would talk about it, I lost a lot of people.
Ark, games like World of Warcraft that have these obvious features that are simulating gambling. I think these features and the prevalence and the success of these games serves as direct evidence that boycotts and personal abstaining from something personally is just simply not working. And I think that we need some sort of advocacy.
No, it doesn't, right? It doesn't work to change anything. Again, it's just for you. Does it make you feel good to live in line with the things that you say? Like, that's purely what it's all about. On the topic of boycotts, Ginger Prime did a video on this a while back, talking about how boycotts in the gamer space tend to actually make the thing stronger. Because if you talk about a boycott, but then the boycott fails, which gamer ones always fail because you can't get enough people on board, and then write the joke, Asmongold has said this before too, right? It's like you're one trailer away from forgetting about it, right? One good cinematic. And what this ends up doing then is you've now signaled to the company that you can make the player base so mad that they'll talk about boycotting you, but ultimately they'll just give you the money still. And now you've signaled to them that they can probably just bend you over and do whatever they want.
See on a legislative level for this, and I hope that it happens before it's too late and before more people get taken down that road. But again, I think people are dumb. They should be accountable for themselves, and they shouldn't take those decisions to begin with. But at the end of the day, at a certain point, you do have to protect dumb people from themselves, and I think that we're definitely down that road. And I really hope that I hope more.
Here's my issue. The biggest issue I have with that statement is like, do we have data showing that people are doing this to the actual point of ruining their lives? And if so, at what kind of rate? How small of a percentage of people are we talking about actually let this fucking ruin their life? Right? Because to me, this is almost kind of similar to like when they made weed illegal, man. Like, it's like, Joe Rogan's got a joke about this, right? It's like, some people will ruin their life with cheeseburgers, right? It's like, You can't just go around making everything illegal that a small percentage of people will let ruin their life, or eventually everything is illegal. Because people will ruin their life with anything, literally cheeseburgers and sodas. So, where's the line? When are we banning cheeseburgers and sodas? That ruins a lot more lives. Objectively, fact, fast food ruins more lives than anything in PC gaming ever can. And you like fast food, right, Asmon? Should your fast food be illegal? It wouldn't bother me. I don't eat it. I wouldn't. And I typically think it's not responsible to eat it more than like once a week if you're in a hurry. So, right? But there's millions of people, probably more than half the population, ruining their lives with it, ruining their health. Should we make it illegal? This is a serious question. I might clip just this part and put it out to see if he'll end up seeing it.
People can wake up and see that, and we can actually look and see what's really going wrong. And I think also, if these things didn't exist and they were, you know, for some reason illegal, I don't think that it's not like we wouldn't see video games anymore. We would just see better and...
Yeah, we wouldn't see restaurants anymore, man. We would just see better quality restaurants.
Ethically designed video games. And it's not like these people would just close up shop. And if they did, and they can't make a game without simulating gambling, well, maybe that's probably for the best. So anyway, that's how I...
Yeah, if they can't make a restaurant without shitty food that poisons you, makes you, you know, that, you know, it's like really addictive, so that people get hooked into eating it, and they just let themselves go down this path and until like they've completely lost control of themselves, and they're addicted to it, so they can't stop. If you can't make a restaurant without that, then probably you don't need to make a restaurant.
I feel about pay to win. I think that it's going to become even more popular. I think that it's going to become even more prevalent. And I think the only thing that's...
Same thing for shitty food, eh? Except it already happened.
Going to slow it down is going to be actual legislation. I think that anything else...
Same thing for the shitty food. This is fun.
Besides that is just completely spitting in the wind. It will do literally nothing, and the people that enjoy it will laugh at you for being upset about it. So
that's very true. I've been choosing to eat healthy for like a decade now. Fixed my health, right? I speak from experience. I used to be fat enough to have man boobs thanks to the fast food and the lazy lifestyle. And, you know, managed to undo it for myself, but it sure didn't change anybody else, right? It's inspired a few people. I've had some messages from friends here and there over time, like thanking me. You know, but for the most part, the world's definitely heading down the same path of unhealthiness. Again, where's the line from protecting people from themselves? Do you want to be protected from yourself, Asmon? Do you want fast food to be illegal? Because I would say that there's more evidence for making fast food illegal than for making this game stuff illegal. Because again, just objectively, the amount of lives being ruined, we're talking actual health problems, people dying, right? So it's where people should reflect. And this is a perfect point, kind of in his own video when he was talking about how people just, they care about the stuff that they care about, right? When it affects them, right? And so he's talking about this one here. I would love to hear this. If he sees this and were to respond and be like, oh no, you're right, you make that illegal too, I would at least tip my hat and be like, that is at least consistency. I don't really care when people are wrong, right? Or differing opinions or whatever. Like, it would just be differing opinions. One of the things that drives me nuts though is when there's like zero consistency, right? So in this issue here, I feel like you have to concede one or the other. Either it's like, oh yeah, you're right, like fast food should be illegal also, or it's, oh yeah, this is kind of, you know, like I really dislike this, but ultimately it is a choice of freedom and people can ruin their lives if they want to. You kind of have to make that choice here.
Oh, that's what I think, and I'd be really curious to hear what you guys think too. I know
well, I just let you know.